Ah yes, ReZero. What a classic. Back in 2016, we got another isekai that looked like it was going to help us fulfill our hopes and dreams. And then it stabbed us. Again. And again. And for some reason, we didn't mind too much. Now the show has continued to stir up a lot of attention, and for good reason. It took the isekai genre and it twisted it a little, giving us an interesting psychological horror. And while years later, people are arguing who best girl is, the people of culture are arguing who best boy is. Just kidding, we all know it's Otto. Today we're going to take a look at the wisdom from ReZero and find out what it has to offer us. Hello friends, welcome to another Life Lessons from Fiction. Quick spoiler warning, if you are not at least 3 episodes into the second part of Season 2 for ReZero, you might want to stop. A lot of interesting things have happened in the second season, and I think it's really worth breaking down here. If you're interested in content like this, feel free to hit the subscribe button and let me know what you'd like to see in the future. I'm always open to new ideas. But without further ado, let's get going. Shit. I always forget to introduce myself for some reason. I'm Labrie. How's it going? ReZero is a deceptively grimdark story. The anime goes to great lengths to show that just beneath a happy-go-lucky fantasy world lies an insidious nature that the characters we know and love often fall prey to. And while everyone's story is unique, one thing is for sure. Pain is universal to the human experience. In today's world, mental health is a hot topic. It's always being discussed, and more people are considering taking a more active role in fixing or bettering their mental health. In a world like this, ReZero really hits home. Over the course of the series, we slowly get to see in depth the lives of each of our favorite characters and their own individual struggles. You get to see familial regrets, tragic pasts, and people struggling to cope with the future. It's most vividly shown when Subaru takes on the second trial. Here, we get a glimpse of what Subaru leaves behind each time he dies. And while we don't know for sure if it's real or not, what we do know is that the pain is very real. For the first time, we're shown the aftermath of what happens when things go wrong. And it's a little surprising to see just how impactful it is. ReZero shows us that even though people may or may not know what you're going through exactly, everybody will know loss and the pain that comes from that. Now, what kind of breakdown would this be if we didn't go over the theme of isolation? What you don't realize in the beginning is that Subaru starts off as a NEET, which means he's not in education, employment, or training. He spends his days at home, physically isolated from the rest of the world. And it's not until he's thrust into this world that he decides he's going to try. However, the caveat is that he still remains alone. He is isolated from sharing what his problems are. He can never tell anyone about the pain that he continues to experience as he tries to change the world for the better. The CDC reports that social isolation can lead to premature death. It's heavily associated with depression, anxiety, increased risk of strokes, heart attacks, and up to a 50% increase risk of dementia, which actually might explain a lot about Subaru. More and more as Subaru feels cut off from the world, you notice that he starts to take his life for granted. He starts viewing death as a way out and becomes detached from the situation as a whole at times. Now, of course, from the flashbacks, we know that this could be really detrimental. But more than that, it's very obvious at times that if Subaru could quit, he absolutely would. Try not to finish that off on a dark note. Just remember, if you too are experiencing social isolation, to reach out to the people around you. The next thing we're going to talk about is the fact that life is not so simple, especially when you think about your past regrets. In a time like this, people feel like they've taken the last couple years for granted. Maybe they didn't foster as many social relationships, maybe they've made bad decisions in the past. However, just remember that even if you had the chance to go back, things might not necessarily turn out to go your way. We watch again and again as Subaru attempts to tackle situations, and even when he attacks problems from different angles, they don't necessarily provide a desirable result. We've watched many a time where Subaru has decided to change up tactics only to watch different people die, and there are times where his intervention actually leads to worse results. The takeaway here is that anything could happen, and even if you had a second shot at fixing your regrets, they might not go the way that you'd hoped. Now imagine we kept those past regrets and we carried them on for the rest of our life. We'd probably be living in a rut for quite some time, right? In fact, one of the reasons therapy is so effective is because it allows us to let go of our baggage and help us move forward. There are some real character conflicts in ReZero that are a result of these kinds of issues. In light of this, ReZero shows us that we cannot move forward if the past is holding us back. Now, of course, there are many examples, but the best here is probably Amelia. She is a character that refuses to believe that anybody can care for her. Because she is not a human and she in fact has purple eyes, she has been treated different her entire life. So by the time she starts to live a semi-normal life, she is rightfully so a skeptic. This causes her to have a lack of trust in the people around her, making it harder for her to establish real connection with the other characters. By her not dealing with her traumas, she in fact opens herself up to more conflict in the future. Now this is something that isn't really tackled until Subaru goes through the realization that he himself is also dealing with these problems. And it's not until Subaru goes through the ordeal with the witches that he's able to convince himself, and thus Amelia, that it's okay for other people to care about you. By going through our own personal trauma, we open ourselves up to better experiences in the future. This is why therapy and counseling should not be a taboo. There's nothing wrong with being mentally sound. And honestly, this show makes a great case as to why counseling would be good for you. We're gonna move on to the fifth and final life lesson. We're gonna look at love and how it goes so horribly wrong in ReZero. Just like some people in their adolescence, all of the witches have their own realities. They have their own understanding of the world, and they don't let anyone get in their way. And because of that, each witch's love is incomplete and very much self-centered. More and more, you realize they don't care for the people that they're talking to. They only care about what they get out of it. They love the outcome. Love is a theme in ReZero that characters usually use to justify the way that they feel, and tend to use it to push a narrative, or at least an outcome. The Witch of Envy uses her love as an excuse for her entire narrative. Echidna uses her love of knowledge as an excuse to justify the way that she does things, and her disregard for the individuals. It's because of this Subaru realizes that without true understanding, people cannot actually love each other, and therefore build a real trusting relationship. This is why he refuses help from any of the witches, and it's why he rethinks his entire approach to Amelia, claiming the whole time that he loves Amelia when in fact he does not actually trust her, which is pretty ironic to say the least. So remember folks, when you're out there trying to build love in your own life, whether it be platonic or romantic, it needs to come from a place of understanding, or you run the risk of looking like the Witch of Envy to the people around you. So ReZero has been a super stellar series, and I'm really enjoying it as the tension keeps amping up. I'm curious to see where the end of this season goes. Anyways, that's everything from me. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me. I really do appreciate it, and I'm happy to see you. I hope you guys are having a phenomenal day, and I will see you next time. Take care. Thanks for checking out the channel.